Thank you, President. I rise to endorse the motion moved by my colleague, Mr David Davis, motion number 1055 that states in this House, and it's a very serious issue and serious topic that we are debating today. And it states in relation to violent home invasions in metropolitan Melbourne, and I certainly know that it's not limited to metropolitan Melbourne, it highlights an example in Kew, aggravated retail burglaries in retail outlets, including supermarkets. Also increased comments in relation to retail crime and a concern that we have on this side in relation to community safety in country Victoria and a lack of police resources in our suburbs. And we want to see an improvement in this situation. Before I do that, I want to just put on record my sincere condolences to our Victorian police members, the family of those dear and beloved service personnel who lost their lives yesterday morning, and the devastation that has caused, not only in the region of Pawnpukka, but the reverberations right across the state, and say that we acknowledge the pain of people who lose loved ones in such an extreme and violent circumstance. And we wish that with all our heart that there can be healing in the knowledge that Victoria stands side by side with our members in blue. And in doing so, I would like to start to correct the record. This is certainly sound like it's a little bit of communications tennis in this House today, because we've heard various statements refuted, and then I may well refute them back. If I speak to knife crime, and indeed in my region I'm seeing it more as well, but in terms of Australian retailers have recorded a 66% year-on-year increase in retail crime compared to last year, and unfortunately Victoria is tracking in all the wrong metrics. And this data is collected by Aurora, and it's a global institute, a global agency, this data, and it's used not only across Australia, New Zealand, North America and the United Kingdom. So it's to be believed. And the category that Victoria is doing so poorly in is that compared to last year, Victoria is leading the state in terms of threatening events, and this is in the Australian retailers, threatening events. Victoria is up 52%. 52%. Now that translates to a lot of fear, a lot of concern, a lot of aggravation, and a lot of people feeling less and less safe. Serious events in Victoria are up 38, and these include using knives and blades in the retailers' environment, hammers, scissors and box cutters. Now, that used in a violent fashion can create all sorts of lasting trauma, not only in the victims, the retailers, but the centre in which that's occurring and the community in which that's occurring. And I put on record again my concern for those people. Now, if we look at that, we've seen in my own region, in my own electorate, we've seen alleged stabbings this year in Morwell and Warragul. We've seen our small business owners frustrated by this, and the concern. I did a walk only a month or so ago down the street of Morwell, the main street of Morwell, and spoke with my colleague, Martin Cameron, and I spoke with shop owners and business owners, and very concerned about this knife crime and antisocial behaviour. And there's layers upon layers of this, but it is happening in our regions. And indeed the crime stats for our regions, and part of this motion goes to community concern in regional Victoria. Let's look at some of those crime stats. For June, so the most recent, there'll be another coming out, we now have a criminal offence occurring every 50.3 seconds in this state. And we see youth crime, motor vehicles being stolen, and I can give you examples that are happening in towns close to my home as well, aggravated burglary and the like. The percentage of rise of crime in Bass Coast is up 13%, Bawr 19%, East Gippsland 9%, Latrobe is up 12%, South Gippsland 11%, Wellington 18%, Cardinia 32% in that fantastic area in my electorate, Wellington up 18%. And if I have time, I'll continue this, what would be a litany of crime increase that's happening right across the electorate. Just finishing off on that, Bass Coast has a 61% increase in supermarket crime, has a 53% increase in other retail settings. Cardinia, 84% increase in petrol crime. And I know that those fantastic people in the town of Lang Lang, and I'm sure my colleague and I have both been speaking with them, Dr Heath and I, in relation to the fact that their police station was built. It's a fantastic little police station right in the heart of town, and it's open only a few hours a week, and they are concerned that this lack of oversight, this lack of the presence there in these smaller towns is a concern, because they're being asked to backfill into our metropolitan stations where there is a dearth. And we know that there is around 1,100 vacancies and around 700 long-term sick leaves in our police force. So these again are concerning. These are the realities of this is that people don't feel safe in their homes. They don't feel as safe as they did 10 years ago, and it is actually quite frightening. Now, in relation to the machetes, and in terms of refuting the comments from the other side, the Liberals and Nationals in May, early May this year, introduced a private members bill to outlaw machetes on our streets. We introduced that, and hey presto, the Allen government knocked it back. Said no, said, you know, there's nothing happening here, it's a bit of a problem, and then just a few months later introduced its own. But we still have a delay that machetes will be banned not until September. They could have been, if Labor had been on the front foot, they could have been banned much, much earlier. And I will just make some comments about machetes, because we see that costings, and I think I heard from the member's previous speech before me about the whole rationale that $13 million for 40 steel bins, $13 million for 40 steel bins equates to over $300 million a bin. And I know, and that's the maths. Sorry, $300,000 a bin. Now I take a very sensible person, the member for Narrabeen. It's hit a nerve, I might say. It's hit a great big nerve. It's hit a nerve. My colleague, Mr Wayne Farnham, the member for Narrabeen, has actually gone out and sourced what it would be in a professional capacity to produce a properly fabricated steel bin that could be used. All of the rest, he did the work around that $10,000 mark. So we see. I'll take that interjection. It's actually quite unparliamentary to start bagging people out when they're not in the House, so I suggest that you don't do it. Now, the Allen government refuses to take responsibility for the crisis it has created. We've seen the government has watered down our 2013 bail reform. We've seen them water it down in 2016. They then watered it down again in 2023, and now they're looking at, as I've said yesterday, the two-step dance on this. People's lives, property, homes and well-being is at stake here, and I think this is only a reasonable motion. It doesn't go too extreme. It's actually just calling out the truth and calling on the government to take the serious situation and reduce that risk to our Victorian population so that they can feel safe sleeping in their beds at night.